Fam, welcome to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate with Jose. I have a great guest for you today. Have you ever been in a place in your life where you weren't sure what the next step in life was going to be? You are like down to your last few dollars and you got to find a way to support your family. Well, my next guest is going to share her story with you, how she went from being a stay-at-home mom to an entrepreneur. So that being said, let me introduce to the stage my good friend, Ashley Mason. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing so great. How are you, Jose?
I'm doing fantastic. You decided to be on my podcast, and I am loving it.
I am so honored to be on this podcast. I am super lucky. We have been rubbing shoulders the last couple of weeks / months, getting everything for that semester course that you're helping with right now. If you guys haven't checked it out and you're inside of the sub-2 Gator top tier communities, you need to go check out the connection code, because Jose and Linda and Matt are just doing amazing things.
Yeah, so for the audience, thanks to Ashley, because Ashley picked us, my team, to basically teach people how to network so that they can get value and be more intentional when they're going to meetups. So, but this isn't about me. This is about you. So let me turn the tables around so you can't get off the hot seat.
Yeah.
Can you share with everybody your story? Like, how did you get involved in this real estate industry?
Well, we've got many versions of this story, but the cliff notes of that is I decided with my husband in 2022 that we were going to sell our house, and we walked away from our W-2 that we had for a couple of years, and we decided that we were going to become real estate investors. We both come from just, working class families that didn't take a lot of chances, didn't do a lot of crazy stuff. And, even though you can find happiness in that life and in that way, it just wasn't really filling that cup for us. And we wanted more and we believed we were capable of more. And so we just took a chance and sold everything and moved and decided that the avenue was real estate investing. The fun part with that is my husband dove head in, just head first, did all of that stuff. And I was still just like, yeah, go, honey. You got this. I'm going to keep homeschooling the kids and just doing what I've been doing, just raising our kids and being the home manager more. And at the time we had, I think, a 3-year-old, a 5 or 6-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And then we got to the point where we were probably about, a couple months of running out of our funds and nothing had been working. We've been trying wholesaling, and then we were going to try to do lending, and Gator lending was pretty new in 2022 when we had started, and there was just all this stuff. And everybody knows when you get started in real estate, especially, with sub-2 or Gator or top tier, it's like drinking from a fire hose and you're trying to convince yourself you're not dying.
Right.
And I don't know if we got like shiny objects in them and we were just chasing too many things at once, but we got down to the last couple of months of our funds and we hadn't had a deal go through successfully yet. And then TC pops up on our radar. And we hadn't tried that yet. And my husband was like, Ashley, you did financial aid in college. You understand papers and documents and stuff. You'd be great at this. And I had this reckoning moment. I still remember this day where I wasn't planning on being part of that intense of the business. I wasn't planning on running a business or a team or anything. But I just remember on that moment of like, okay, how bad do I want this? Because I can be there to support my husband and do all that stuff, but am I willing to like stand up and do it myself?
Right.
I think it was a combination of, yes, I really wanted to get this to work out, but also I wanted to show my daughter that she could do this if she wanted to do it. And I think I just got that like mama bear instinct of like, oh crap, we gotta get this thing to work out because we're running out of money. And so I just jumped in, and literally within, I don't know, a matter of maybe 2 weeks, we had our new LLC set up. I started a TC business. I started marketing our TC business, and then that was like literally in a matter of weeks, we 100% swapped roles. Now my husband is the stay-at-home dad taking care of our kids and doing all the home management stuff, and I'm over here running a business that I didn't know what I was doing. And 2 months from that, we made our first hire and we had our first couple files. And then 6 months after that, we had even more hires and more files. And then I got connected with Molly and Pace, and they found out I was a teacher from college. I graduated with a teaching degree, and that I was making training for my own TC team how to be a TC, because top tier didn't exist then. And then I started collaborating with Molly on top tier stuff, and then here we are.
So for the audience who may not have been following this channel this long, TCs are transaction coordinators. They are like God-sent people, in my opinion, because as an investor, you would be surprised how just one piece of paper that's not signed right or not filed properly can really mess up a deal or help you or cause you to lose money. There's a lot of investors out there that want to skip or don't want to pay for the services of a transaction coordinator. And I would tell you that if you ever value your company, your wallet, that it is worth the money, because the money that you spend now will save you 10 times that if you don't have the right documents filed and or signed. And it could also cost you time, because when I first started investing, I was working at W-2, and I had my TC working while I was at my W-2. So there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes where I didn't have to worry about it because I had my TC or my transaction coordinator working for me. So, and then also Gator. Gator is in our community. When I say our, Pace Morby has put together 3 different communities, which is sub-2 buying houses creatively. And you have Gator, which is our private money lending, and then our transaction coordinators are top tier TCs, and we call them top tier because they are top tier trained, thanks to Ashley, and whatchamacallit, they make sure that all your transactions are done properly. You have the right servicing, you have insurance, things a lot of people don't think about when they're going through the process. So they kind of your second brain. So if you don't remember things, they're the ones that kind of help you stay out of trouble. That's the way I like them.
Yeah,
What do you think, Ashley? Pretty accurate?
totally, yes. I mean, I would definitely say we are helpers. We find so much satisfaction and fulfillment in just helping everybody to have a good experience in that transaction, whether it's you as the buyer wanting to just make sure that everything is ready and willing for you to take on a new property, because that's a huge feat, or you're a title agent and you are so tired of trying to get investors to sign things, or you're trying to get sellers to sign things, and just need that extra person who's on your team who's just helping with the communications and keeping things moving smoothly. We just love to help everyone enjoy that process, because we enjoy watching it all fall in together.
So for the audience, if you haven't noticed, she didn't say she invested in fix and flips or that she went and bought a house and made it a rental, right? She's a trend. I won't say she's only. One of the things that she does is a transaction coordinator, and she runs her own business, which is real estate related. So if you're out there and you're wanting to see a way to get into real estate, this may be something that works for you. She did it in 2 weeks. I don't know how you start a business in 2 weeks hiring somebody. I've been doing this since 2016, and I'm still scared about hiring somebody to help me do my business. So how did you find somebody that you trusted to work alongside you, or at least represent you in your business?
Well, I think I did have some hidden skills of operational stuff. I have a very logistical brain, and I do operations now, where I sit with my team right now. I do a lot of operations, but I would say that I've always had a very unique way of hiring people. I actually got teased a lot for it when I first started. I do auditions,
Okay.
and this is something that has kind of phased over into the work that I'm also doing with the semester's program, is that I audition people to find out why they want to be here, what's their motive, what are skills that maybe might not be related to what we're doing now, but would help them with what they're trying to do now. Because like you guys, you and Linda and Matt in your connection class yesterday, you talked about how some of the skills that you bring into business, life, relationships, networking came from previous things that don't have anything to do with what you're trying to do. And it brings a lot of value. So mine is that I I mean, I got used to auditioning people in my life as a mom when they're like, I want to do play dates. I'm like, are you a psycho person? Just like trying to be friendly, you know?
Sure.
But it also came down to that of just I don't think I knew any better, you know?
Right.
I'm a very trusting person naturally until somebody, until somebody gives me a reason not to. I want to have goodwill and trust with that person. So
Absolutely.
I had a bunch of people reach out to me when I first started my TC business, and they all wanted to be TCs because top tier didn't exist at the time. So there wasn't really anywhere to get really good education.
Right.
And I just wanted somebody who wanted to be there. I just wanted somebody who genuinely just wanted to learn and grow. They didn't have a huge ego. They were okay with being wrong because that's part of the learning process. I'm actually a huge advocate for failure as part of the learning process because I was a teacher.
Right.
And I feel so sad so many people get this, I don't know, really negative connotation vibe on failure when I think we were just taught that because we didn't come out of like the womb and we're like, I failed at walking. I'm never going to fail again. Like, I'm never going to try to walk again.
Right.
We weren't like that. We just were like, oh, I fell down. Let me try this again. And so I like people who have that attitude. And I was really lucky that most of the early people who connected with me were a lot like that, and they just wanted to learn. And I was like, I don't know too much. You're gonna be learning alongside me. If you're good with that, we're good. And then, and they really did. I was only a few steps ahead of my team, and they knew that.
Right.
We just figured it out together.
So, when I talk to a lot of, especially the new transaction coordinators, TCs, one of the hardest things for them to do is like just get their first file, right? Especially with people that, like you said, you went out there, you got your LLC, and you just started marketing the heck out of yourself.
I did.
And a lot of people are not used to or comfortable doing that. So, what would, and mind you, I know that there's a TC training course out there, but outside of that, what would you tell a new TC how they could do better at getting their first file?
Oh, I would have probably 3 recommendations. Number 1, you really got to put your ego away. Like you just do. You're not going to be right because you've never, you haven't done this before, most likely, or you wouldn't be looking to get your first file. So your first couple files, you don't know anything, and that's okay. The value that you have is still just as valuable by just saying, I want to give energy and time to this. So just put your ego away and don't make it about being right. Make it about doing it right, doing the best that you can and showing up the best that you can. The second thing is use your failures as stepping stones instead of like capstones. It's just like use your failures as like a path that you're building with bricks instead of bricking yourself in because you just keep messing up. That's just gonna happen all the time. You just gotta own that. And the third thing would be to find someone or just market yourself in this particular way of you're okay learning on the job. You need to tell people, everyone's all worried. They're like, I've never had a file. How can I tell someone that I can take a file when I've never had a file? Well, everyone has had this moment where they haven't had a file. I've had a moment when I didn't have a file. And so the way that you approach someone is, I am inexperienced. I've never done this file before, but I am excited and willing to learn. I learn quickly. I learn on the job. If you're willing to be patient with me, I promise I'll show up the best way that I can. And
Plus, we have a whole community behind this, right? So you have a network of transaction coordinators that can. I say us because I am a TC.
Yay!
But
like I didn't have that when we started. Top Tier didn't exist. I didn't have a network of TCs behind me. I had 2 TCs that I knew that had been doing it maybe 4 months longer than me, and I knew that I needed to have $300 to go and get a consult with them if I couldn't figure something out. Like that's where I was at. But I literally would, when people would call me and they're like, hey, I heard you were a TC. I'm like, yep, I'm a TC. What can I help you with? Well, I have this fix and flip file in Georgia. And I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds amazing. I would love to help you with that. And they're like, have you ever done a fix and flip file before? And I was like, nope, I've never done a fix and flip file before, but I'm super excited to learn. And I have a lot of, passion and enthusiasm for getting this figured out. I love puzzles. I want to figure this out. And if necessary, I do have someone that I can call if I don't know what I'm doing. That's like literally all I would tell people. I would tell dozens of people that. And eventually I met someone he was like one of my dearest friends still to this day. And he was like, okay, I got it. Let's do this. And my first file was in New Jersey. It's the hardest states because they just have all these laws and regulations and stuff. But I figured it out because I had someone who was partnering with me in a way and taking a chance. And I was just honest and gave it the best shot I could give.
You bring up a very good point. Some people may not be thinking about that is being a transaction coordinator. One, you don't have to live in that state in order to help an investor with their file. That's number one. But number two is the more files you do, the more of the nuances in each state that you get familiar with that investors may not be. I did a transaction in Oklahoma that I wasn't aware that it was a totally different. They do abstract titles and not deeds of trust and stuff like that. So I'm like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah.
And thank goodness I had a TC that understood that, right? So how would I want to phrase this? Somebody who's watching this and says, oh, wait a minute, there's such thing as a TC. I can work from home. I can be a nomad and teach my kids homeschool and then work my business afterwards. How do you encourage somebody who says, but I don't know what Jersey laws are and I don't know what Texas laws are? What would you say to somebody like that?
If that's something that's going to stop you, you need to seriously reconsider. But I mean, it just goes back down to like in real estate. If you haven't dabbled in real estate and come to the realization that it's impossible for you to know everything, you haven't dabbled deep enough. Because it is real estate. There's so many different states, so many different counties in those states, and there's just lots of laws that go from county to county or state to state. And when you realize it's impossible for you to know everything, you just find the superpower of, okay, so being very inquisitive and getting good at asking questions is a superpower. And being able to put my ego away and not be right is a superpower. Because now you just go and you approach everything with some humility and curiosity, and you call up an attorney in Maryland, and you're like, I've never done a closing in Maryland on these types of transactions before. What would you recommend that I pay attention to make sure that we're going to do this right? And then they very nicely turn around and say, it's not a closing. We're having a settlement. And we're like, oh, excuse me. Thank you so much for educating me. And then they educate you because you're willing to listen. You're willing to ask questions, and you're respecting the fact that you don't know everything.
Right.
And that would just be the thing is, look at it like a treasure hunt, you know? Everything that you learn is like a gold nugget, and even if it hits you in the face and it gives you a black eye because you did not see that gold nugget coming, it's still a gold nugget. And you just like put a steak on your black eye and keep going.
And keep moving.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of big misnomers about TCs, right? People think that TCs are supposed to like write up a contract for them or do some type of legal document. Can you help educate some of the people that are watching this and say, oh, maybe I need a TC, and kind of paint the box like this is what TCs can do, this is the things that TCs can't do?
Got you. Okay. So, yes, there is a very big miscommunication about what TCs do and what we don't do. And there's different kinds of TCs where you hire a third party TC versus hiring a TC inside of your business. Those are different things. If you're hiring a third party TC, that's like hiring a window washer. Okay? That's like hiring a window washer to come and wash your windows. Now, if you want a TC to write contracts for you and draft legal documents for you and do that kinds of stuff, I think you're really looking for an attorney, or you're looking for a business partner that takes the same risk and liability that you are. And that's where I think the big miscommunication comes in, is that most TCs, they're just outsiders that are in there to do a service. They're there to wash your windows, right?
Yeah.
And can they do more than wash windows? Like, technically, yes. But is that something that you as a business owner want them to be doing? Because, there's that line of they're not acting like a TC anymore. And you're taking on a huge liability risk. The TC is taking on a huge liability and risk. And the deal is taking a huge liability and risk, because someone who's writing a contract who didn't negotiate that deal, I've seen those happen. People do them.
Yeah.
And that's where everything gets messed up. And the terms weren't exactly right. And the things weren't like all these necessary things weren't included because that TC didn't negotiate the deal. They don't know. They don't read something and have it spark that random conversation that you had while you were negotiating.
Right.
So that would be the biggest one, I think, is that a lot of investors think, I'm going to have my TC write this up and it's going to be so helpful and useful because now I get to save 15 minutes. I mean, guys, it really doesn't take that long to write a contract. It's like, I'm going to save myself 15 minutes and go get another deal. First of all, what's your lead gen system? Because I want to know what your lead gen system is if you can get a deal in 15 minutes. But the other part of it from like operationally is that that's a messy handoff. Like the person who's closing the deal isn't even able to take 15 minutes to put it on paper.
Right.
Got a playbook that everybody can work from. They're all on the same page. Like, so I don't know. Those are the big ones for me, where people think it helps them by saving them time, but it's really causing more points of fracture.
Right.
And don't show up until you're at the closing table and the seller doesn't want to sign because that thing wasn't in the contract that you talked about, and now you got to delay your closing by 7 days because you didn't have that one thing in there.
Which should cost you money.
Yeah, it always costs you money to delay.
So, I alluded to you at the beginning of this that you're just more than a TC because you kind of morphed, right? You're teaching guys like me to be instructors,
Yeah.
right? So can you kind of share how you went from owning your own business as a TC and couple employees to now you're kind of got a bigger umbrella that you're in charge with to show people that you may start with a business here, but in real estate, you can always grow and move into other aspects of the business.
Yeah, that's totally. I didn't see this coming either. I guess this whole thing's been a roller coaster ride in the dark, but it's been awesome. So I TC'd a deal for a wholesaler who ended up selling their deal to Molly and Pace. Molly is Pace Morby's COO, and I ended up getting like a phone call or an email from her saying, "We're the buyer, and I want all of these things." And so, that's what TCs usually do for wholesalers is they just help to make sure the end buyer gets everything that they need to wrap up the deal. But I guess I impressed them or something because after that, they ended up trying to work with me a little bit more on a couple more deals just as a third party, nothing like crazy. And eventually, Molly told me that they were working on developing curriculum for top tier. And she and I had talked that I was developing curriculum to train TCs on my team because up to that point, there wasn't any way to learn how to be a TC quickly.
Right.
And I'm a teacher and I like problems. And so I was fixing this problem that I had experienced by having to self-teach myself about
Right.
TC work. And I was like, well, instead of everyone having to self-teach, I'm just going to make this training where people can start here and go here, and it compounds and makes sense because that's how my teaching brain works. So I helped Molly with a couple of things, but mostly just like gave her insights on like the teaching aspect of stuff. And I still remember it so clearly. I got invited to go to community camp in Montana with our community, and I ran into Pace. And at that point, Molly had tried to get me to come and help run top tier. So like they would hire me to go over and do operations over there. And
Yeah.
I've never done operations before. Like this was my first business, guys. And it aligned very much with why I was even doing what I was doing, is that I wanted TCs to have a more streamlined path. And so it aligned really great, but I was hesitating. And I talked to Pace about it for just a minute between sessions and stuff. And he was like, well, do you want to change 5 people's future or do you want to change 500 people's futures? And I'm like, oh, I guess if I'm really doing it to help people, I should go big or go home. So I ended up fully transitioning over onto their team, started running operations on their team, and I ended up closing my business and my team just because I couldn't be present there the way that I wanted. And I had done my job of teaching my team how to be TCs, and they all went and started their own businesses. So it was bittersweet, but I stepped into a new version of Ashley at that moment that was operations for business. And I didn't realize how much I would love it until I really got my teeth cut and started to take off. And then I just got more and more involved in lots of different operational things. And then semesters came around, and now we're teaching courses for real estate. I never saw that coming. You never know how one path is going to lead you to this other path that's actually what you want to do, but you never saw that path. It was so far down the road.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
And for the audience, she's teaching, 16 people, maybe even more than that, teaching construction, how to do fix and flips, how to underwrite deals, how to network, how to utilize AI. She doesn't know a lot of any of that stuff, but she's able to teach people like me to present the material to people so that it's understandable, it's relatable, and they can take it and utilize it. And those are skill sets she had that's outside of real estate that she's brought to, again, people like me and to our community to be able to share our knowledge with others so that we can, again, just foster a collaboration with other investors so that they can learn how what we do successfully and they can become successful too. So she went from helping 5 people to 500, and now with 3 different communities, she's probably helping 45,000 people. So you just don't know how influential you can be until you just start getting on that journey, huh?
Yeah, the thing that's really comical, I don't know if we talked about this in our instructor training, but my biggest nightmare was having to teach adults. Like that's like nightmare. Because I wanted to teach like middle school and high school, and I really loved teaching that stuff. And so I never saw myself teaching adults until I stepped into this role. But it has been so amazing and fun to like help people see this secret skill that they don't realize they have just because they are who they are. They've gone through their experiences, and like you have your stories and you take your stories and you realize, wow, I learned so many things in this instance, and then you learn how to teach those things. Anyways, super fun.
You shared with us your journey from being stay-home mom, teaching homeschooling, to now being an operations huge and influencing so many people. In that journey, there's had to be some good and bad stories. Can you share a good story and a bad story with us?
Oh man, good story. You know, I have so many good stories. I think one of the best stories is from watching people starting on a path that was such a foggy gray path for me as a TC. Just watching, like, I mean, I get to meet with other TCs on coaching calls and everything, and it is mind-boggling, just the best feeling ever to see them say, yeah, I just started the course, I just started TCing 2 weeks ago, and I already have my first file and I already know what to do. And the questions that they're capable of asking when they've been literally weeks, like they're 4 weeks old as a TC, and they're asking these ultra complex questions on live Q&As. That makes me so happy, and it shows me that is my best story, is that, oh my gosh, I didn't just find a path and I didn't just help build a path. We're like protecting a path where the people who are able to come in and learn at such an accelerated rate is just gives me all the good feels.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely one of mine. And the same goes with my instructors, where it's like when we get to start building these classes, I'm like, did you know that 2 months ago you were capable of building a 4 or 5 week class? Nope, but you did it, and it was awesome. And now you guys are teaching that class, and so I just get to live like all those great feelings watching you guys develop these teaching skills and build a course and then teach the course. It's just so great. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but I mean, you helped us out. You gave us frameworks to kind of make sure that we had a guide to get us to where we needed to go. So,
Oh, but my grandpa, who's a rancher, has the best saying about this. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't
make them drink.
So
Yeah,
it's, even though it doesn't matter how much I give, if somebody's not willing to do anything.
sure.
And so
Yeah.
that's definitely the best good story part of this, is that when you're around the right people and you are showing up as the best version of you, good things just happen.
Right.
Are you ready for the bad stories?
There's always a good and bad. You gotta take the good with the bad, as they say, right?
I would have to say that one of the bad. I mean, I don't know if you can ever label something completely bad, because if you wait long enough, there's always a good thing that came out of it.
Hey, you learn from it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lesson that came out of it. It's always good.
Um. So there's two that particularly come to mind. I don't know how much time we have for both, but
As much as you need.
as much as we need. Well, I have one that's very generalized and then one that's very personal to me. So the generalized one was that I did a file in my early TC days, did a file, and it was for a community member and everything, but at the end of the file, we closed it successfully. There were tons of loops and hoops and everything we had to jump through, and we closed it successfully. But what ended up happening is, after the closing was over, I got a phone call from this client, and he says, I still laugh about this, but he says, "I can't believe that this just happened." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like the closing? Like the successful thing that we were trying to get done this whole time?" He's like, "Well, yeah, that's fine, but like, why didn't you teach me how to do this transaction?"
What?
Was I supposed to be doing that? And he was under the impression that hiring a TC is that you help them learn how to TC and you TC for them.
Oh, wow.
Huge misunderstanding, unfortunately. And there were some words that are still very cutting words to me, but I mean, good things come out of bad situations. But
Sure.
he was like, "You are a terrible TC. I can't believe that I ever believed you were a great TC." You know, and he even said, he's like, "Pace would be ashamed of you. Like, you're
Oh,
such
wow.
a good TC." Like, he just ate me up
Yeah.
so bad. And I remember just pausing, and it, I mean, I was trying not to cry because I'd never had anybody say something like that, and I definitely wasn't anticipating that.
Sure.
And and I just had to sit there and be like, "Well, I wasn't aware that this was the service you were expecting. It's not in my agreement." Like, and I just said, "If I knew this is what you were expecting, we would have taken a different path and we would have done different stuff. And I'm
Right.
sorry that you're disgruntled. But if you want to learn how to TC, you can go and watch all of the Zooms like I did and figure it out by yourself." And I mean, he was still super frustrated, and I ended up like not making any money on that deal, just to try to like find a common ground.
Sure.
And it was difficult. It was really hard because it was still in those early days of TC stuff, and I was still trying to just, take care of my family. But, good stuff came out of the bad situation, where now I'm like, "Yep, people are gonna not like you. They're gonna think you're a crappy worker. They're gonna think you're a lazy worker. They're gonna think you're awful. They're gonna tell you to your face that you're awful, and that's just business." And so, even though it was a bad situation, that was one of those moments where I'm just like, "This isn't about me. It's nothing personal. It's that they don't like how I'm doing business, and the business isn't me. It's
Right.
just business." And happy ending though, I did meet him face to face eventually, and we,
Squashed it.
steered away, and we're just fine now. And he's an awesome guy, and I don't think he's saying bad things about me behind my back, but it's just that it's one of those things where it's like really hard as a reputation when 100% of the TC's job is almost communication, and
Sure.
communication's a two-way street, so that's kind of a
Yeah.
deep alley to be walking down all the time. So, but yeah, and then you ready for my ugly story?
Let's go.
Okay, so, oh man, I'm trying to find a short, concise way of talking about this without diving into the emotion too much. But when I first got started, I was in such a survival mode with trying to provide for my family, learn a new skill, trying to keep my like just get clients, keep clients. Like it was survival, man. Like, and unfortunately, at the time, there wasn't a really strong female presence in the communities, like for real estate stuff. There were women there, but it wasn't as strong and confident as it is now.
Which is, yeah, I was going to say, because right now we're up to what, 42, 48% in our community?
Yeah. But see, in 2022, it wasn't that prominent, and so I kind of stepped into this. Number one, never owned a business before, never been an entrepreneur before, and never done real estate before. So kind of stepped into this like arena that I wasn't really ready for.
Right.
And a couple of months, I would say probably like 6 months, I didn't see my kids.
Oh, wow.
You know, I would
Yeah.
get up before they got up, and I would go to bed after they go to bed. Like I was literally pulling probably, I don't know, 20-hour days,
Wow.
just trying to keep it going, keep it working, and the ugly, sad part about that is that I believed that I had to do that to be successful, and I mean, it was self inflicted because we were in the situation we were in because we chose to be there, and I totally own that. But it was just hard for me because I really did get to a spot where I had a 3, 5, and a 7-year-old who thought that I didn't love them. And they would have conversations with me like, "Mom, why do you work all the time? Mom, don't you, why do you love your phone or your computer?" It's just like those kinds of conversations. They just don't get it. But I just had that realization that sometimes people will tell you that if you don't do those 20-hour days, or if you don't work all the time, or if you don't do that you don't want it bad enough. And I don't think that's true.
Mm-mm.
But it took me 6 months of not seeing my children, and my health declined excessively. Like, I got put in the hospital at one point and everything, and stuff. It was just like because I didn't know that there was an alternative way to make momentum and make progress and move forward in a positive direction without sacrificing myself.
Right.
And so that's kind of like my ugly stories. It's just like I went through 6 months of really ugly things, of like compromising why I was even there, telling myself that, at some point I won't have to. And what ended up happening was that I had like this massive wake up call that if I'm waiting for somebody to come to me and tell me to stop doing that, it's not going to happen. Who's going to tell me to stop doing that? My clients aren't going to tell me to stop working 20-hour days. My business partners aren't going to tell me to stop working 20-hour days. Everyone else benefited from me doing that except me and my family, which is why I was doing it. So that's my ugly story, but it's something that I use as like my soapbox kind of if you're here for your family and to build generational wealth or to just build freedom for your family, just make sure that they're part of that equation. Otherwise, you could end up losing them.
Life work balance.
And it's going to be different for everyone because everyone hears that story and they call me or they talk to me or they message me and they're like, "Ashley, how did you find work-life balance?" And I'm like, I sat down and I decided what's important to me in my life, and then I don't compromise on those things. And everyone's like, "You can't do that. You can't be an entrepreneur and do that." And I'm like, you have to find a way to do that. Otherwise, the people that are paying the cost is your family, and you just don't know it because it's happening in the background. So
somebody like Pace that has the man on his time can time block for his family and have non-negotiables.
mm-hmm.
Somebody like me who doesn't have the same constraint on my def time to time block for my family for sure.
Yeah, and I think the discomfort that people aren't willing to check into is the discipline part of that. It's not easy, and people are going to get upset about it, but you just got to hold your line.
Totally agree. So you shared with us your journey, your good and bad and ugly stories. If somebody wanted to follow you or what is it you need? What can somebody bring value to you? Because you bring so much value to so many other people. What can people bring value to you?
Oh man, I love collecting. Like, I love collecting minds. Like, this is why I love connecting with people. Is that when I get to teach new instructors, or I get to do, I don't know, like I do operational overviews of people who are like, my business just isn't working. I love doing that because then I connect with people and I'm like, wow, they see the world in a totally different way. And that helps me expand my ability to articulate or to teach or to help other people because I just get to understand more people. So what I love is when people just want to connect. And if you're, if you might want to teach a class someday, I'll connect with you too. But yeah, I love watching people grow into like 3.0 versions of themselves and become teachers and become coaches and consultation directors and all that. So I don't know. You just want to connect. I just like meeting people. That's what I need. I just need to meet new friends and fun people who just want to go out and do awesome things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to follow you or get to know you and get to meet you, how would they do that?
Oh man. Well, if you do decide you want to follow me, I gotta warn you right now that I talk about really weird stuff or philosophical stuff or teaching stuff. So if that's not your cup of tea, consider yourself warned right now. But I love posting my perspectives and things that I'm learning because I feel like when I do that, other people have the opportunity to influence and impact more people than even me.
Sure.
So if you want to follow me, I love chatting with people on Instagram. I'm on there. You can go to @IM_Ashley Mason. And yes, I spell my name super obnoxiously with an I. It's not my fault, but I love it, and it's me. So IM_Ashley Mason on Instagram.
As unique as you are.
I love it. It's the only thing that keeps me being unique because when you're born in the decade that I was, everybody was named Ashley. So at least I just have my own spelling.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast and sharing your knowledge and sharing your journey with us. To the audience, thank you for coming to another episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.